Howdy, welcome back to Dion Talk. When we start investing and we get on that path to make work optional, there's a couple of times where we choose to change our strategy. Either we want more debt, or we want more units, or we want more cash flow, or something in our situation changes to where we alter the way we're investing. There's a mental point where we have enough. Is it enough units, enough cash flow, enough assets, enough net worth? There's something that matters to each one of you. So what I have today is two friends, Matt the Lumberjack Landlord and Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. And I would like you, both of you, to explain from an investor's standpoint, when someone asks you the question, how much is enough? Give me your couple-minute answer that you would if it was just a stranger that you were talking to when you were trying to explain investing to. So we'll go to Matt first.
Well, I always like getting questions that I have no idea what the answer is. So I honestly have no idea. I talk about this with you guys. I talk about this with friends. I have no idea when's enough. So I can quit my job tomorrow if I wanted to, but I don't know. I don't know what number we're stopping at. We just closed on Wednesday on our largest purchase ever. And so now we're 90-ish units, but I have no idea. I have no idea when I'm going to stop. I haven't figured it out yet, but it feels good right now.
Okay, I mean, that's a good answer. As an investor, that's not something that you've had to consider enough to actually come up with an answer for.
More, I'm probably just afraid of what I tell myself. I'd probably tell my wife what that number was, and then she'd be like, "You said."
That's a good point, right?
Yeah.
You set goals.
You said 100. Yeah.
We set goals to give us motivation to achieve something. If you set a goal of when you're going to relax, that's counterintuitive. So, what does that look like for you, Mike?
It's funny. So I've been through this question personally, right? A couple of different times, right? As I was kind of growing the portfolio, the number of $20,000 passive was always kind of the number, right? Unit count for me is, I guess it's interesting, but not important. It's always been cash flow, right? If you can get 20 grand with 4 units, it doesn't matter if it's 4,000. In fact, 4 units is probably better when you look at stress levels. But for me, it's a cash flow and never been about units. But I always had that number as kind of like, life would be pretty good, right? It's more than enough, right? It covers our expenses, plus allows us to have fun. It doesn't allow us to be stupid, but you're not going to live that badly if you're living on that, right? So that was always the number. We had gotten there, and I wasn't paying attention, which is interesting because we were buying so actively. We were using that cash flow to basically become capital for the next thing. And it wasn't really until Olivia said that she was like thinking about retiring that we actually looked at the numbers. So I had a number, didn't know we were there. Life changed when Olivia retired. It was just like, oh, okay, so it does work. That was cool. For me, then I loved my job. I just loved it. And I'd always said 50 years old was my number. But because I knew I'd already hit it, the thing happened at 45 that happened. And I'm like, well, that was an interesting 30 seconds. I'm out. And so it was good to know, but I get this question all the time, right? Because I talk to entrepreneurs, because again, I still don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm an employee and an investor. I'm not like some people are wired to be entrepreneurs, and they don't get it when I tell them I'm not one. But they always have these huge numbers, like I want 1,000 units or 100K a month, or these things that just, they sound good, but I don't get it, because most people want time with their family. And most of you can have time with your family at 8 grand or 6 grand or 4 or 11, certainly 20. If you get to 20 and your most important thing is time with family, your priorities, you're there. So again, I'm there. We haven't stopped. We go at a slow pace. We will never risk everything on a purchase, right? We're long past that. So we're not stopping. We added a duplex about a month ago. I hope to add more. I'm only going to do great deals, to your point, Dion. I don't have to do good deals anymore. I want to do great deals. But yeah, I'll never stop. And then I think I've told you both, right? I wrote this new book, and one of the chapters was about a 75-year young lady who is selling off her portfolios via seller financing. And she basically told me in that interview, which is in the book, that have you ever met a 70-year-old landlord that did a good job? And I'm like, no, I haven't, right? I buy from them, but I haven't met one that did a good job. So I know there's an age where I'm going to start to get out, but that's not about units. It'll probably be 65 when I start to unwind. I'll never get to zero. Sometime between 65 and 75 will probably, whatever we're at, will be half as big, because I don't want to leave Teresa, who's going to get everything, my daughter, with headaches. I want her to have the cleanest stuff. It's important that if she wanted to sell them at 80% on the dollar and get cash, go nuts. I don't care, honey. It's all for you, but I don't want to have her have any problems. So for me, it's not about a math number or unit count. It's about quality of life. I have the quality of life I want. In fact, I have a wonderful life I would trade with no one. Every day is Saturday, and I mean that when I say it. I'm still growing because we have the skills and the experience. Real estate's a cycle. I plan to use all the cycles to our advantage, but I absolutely will unwind, which is not something I would never have thought about until I had that interview with that young lady. And that changed my life, that one interview in the book.
Awesome. And I can't wait to narrate that, get it out on Audible. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
If how much is enough depends on, is your lifestyle covered by cash flow that you don't have to work for? It's time for me to quit my job. But not today. I'm going to cover two things, and then I want to cycle back to both of you and get your opinion on the way that I look at this.
Okay.
There was a study done where if you make $30,000 or $50,000, $50,000, your life is much better. If you go to $75,000, your life is much better. But above $75,000, your quality of life really doesn't change much. You have healthcare, housing, transportation, entertainment, all that stuff covered. And I think the problem with that study was they were talking about people's incomes. And there's a massive difference between earning $75,000 a year and having rental profit of $75,000 a year.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That mental peace that comes from, I never have to work again unless I want to, or I love the job, which is, I love my job now. So I don't actually see me quitting it ever. So that's the first step. Getting to the amount of money that you need to cover your lifestyle should be the first goal. Like, that's not the end goal. That's the first goal. But I've gone to a lot of, probably 4 Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminars, the free one that you get. I haven't ever paid for their $40,000 2-day weekend, whatever it is, right? Jeez. But go to the free one, and they usually start the same way. Somebody who's young comes out and says, what would you do with more cash flow? What would you do if you made more? And then the audience goes through this cycle of, buy a bigger house, I'd have a nicer car, I would take a trip, and they go through everything, but they keep just saying, well, what would you do if you had more? And eventually the audience catches on and they say, oh, well, I would have enough money, I would help someone else, which is what I see the three of us doing. We've reached financial freedom, and enough was make work optional. So if you still love your job, you still do it. If you get to a certain age and you want to quit, sure. If you have a day like you had, Mike, when you were 45, and you just say, hey, that's enough, I'm walking out of here today and I won't be back. But if how many people you can help depends on how much you have, there's no limit to how much I would want to have, because of the number of people I could help grows. I founded the nonprofit that does job placement assistance. The bigger that gets, the more people that get jobs. I run a truck driving school. The more people we train for local driving jobs get work. The more people that we can get on the property ladder, the more people that we can make their retirement better, make work optional, get to just those 4 properties and their life has changed. To me, that kind of takes away the limit of how much is enough. So yes, this video is kind of clickbait. The thumbnail said, how much is enough? And I'm here to say, my thought is, there is no amount. And it's not greed, because the more you have, the more people you can help. So thoughts on that, Matt?
Now I want it all. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we all do. We all like helping people, and we've all, gotten there a certain way that, like Mike's book, it's 15 different stories of how people got successful. And we're 3 stories of how people get successful in real estate. And I think that being able to help folks out and help them understand it's math, the numbers, understanding that it's going to take some work, but you put 10 years into this and likely it's going to completely change your life. It's just, yeah, I mean, that's why we do it. And that's why I think that's probably part of the reason why it's so difficult. Because I still don't have that number in my head that's going to make me walk away from my real job yet. I still don't even have that number.
Yeah, well, here's the deal, right? I suspect it is going to be one of those days, like something will happen. Like for Dion,
Yes.
What's going to happen for Dion is, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if it happened, somebody came in and bought your company and stuck it in some other big conglomerate and you lost that special sauce that made you unique. You have some equity, it'll be a liquidity event. Your partners are going to run off and party and do whatever they want to do. You may not like that, right? Matt, your company could get sold. You can get a terrible territory. I mean, it's at some point, something will happen that you didn't expect. That's what happened to me. I went to work that day,
Sure,
as excited as I had ever been. And I was home by 8:30. I was like, okay.
By hook or by crook, it's happening at 45-6-14.
Exactly.
Actually having that tattooed right here, 45-6-14. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's the day before.
Yes.
Zuber did it.
Exactly. So yeah. So I love that approach of there enough is not enough. Again, I do think it's a process. You take care of yours first, whatever that is, 4, 8, 12, whatever. You add a little bit more so you can have that security blanket. And then it is just about giving back and helping more, whether that is with our time, right? We all give hours every day, 7 days a week, whether it's with money via a nonprofit or donations or charities or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I said something very early on, I don't think I've said in a while, is I'm trying to create something that outlives me by 50 years.
Yeah.
I want people to be saying Michael Zuber for 50 years after I'm dead. I think about that. That's why books, that's why YouTube, that's why a lot of things that I do, because I want, you're only really dead when nobody talks about you anymore. So 50 years after I'm dead, I'm hoping people are still talking about me.
I'll still be talking about you, Mike.
No, thanks, buddy. That son of a gun.
I like how Matt talks like he's 20 years younger than you.
That's why it's funny, Dion.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, thank you both for covering that. That's actually something I wanted another investor's opinion on. For everybody watching, if you could do me a favor and in the comments below, tell me what you think is enough. If people have questions and they want to reach out and find you, Matt, how can they find you?
Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and live stream Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're there for about 3 hours.
Okay. And Mike, if you could tell me the name of your book one more time that I'm going to narrate for Audible.
15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires.
Awesome. And if they have questions for you, how can they find you?
One rental at a time. And we do our live streams at 8 a.m. on Saturdays for 1 hour.
And I am going to try a live stream on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It will be covering why I don't do live streams, the first one. Thank you both. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.